I think this is.
Call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. We'll start off by doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Betsy, did you post the minutes?
I did.
Okay.
Are they not there?
I didn't see them in the attachment.
No, they were not emailed to you.
Oh, okay.
They should be online. Sorry, I should have brought, we
No,
were a
that's
little
fine.
scrambled on Friday.
That's fine. I guess we'll defer to the
Okay.
next
All right.
meeting.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. All right, so we'll defer approving the minutes to the next meeting. Next up is public comment. Anyone from the public would like to make a comment? Okay. If you could, just come up to one of the mics here. That way people at home can hear you.
It will? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My name's Ellen Thompson. I live at 250 Salmon Brook Street. I wanted to make comments on the library. When I first moved to Granby over 33 years ago, the first place I really went to get oriented was the library. And it felt like that's a place that welcomed everybody and could really sort of learn what was going on and get whatever help I needed to get settled in town. I've been involved with the library and supporting it off and on. I'm now on the library board because I care about it. And I just wanted to speak to funding the library expansion. We have a wonderful library. It is way too small. I helped do some surveys about the library, and people were saying that the kids' programs were amazing, but they couldn't always get into them. And there weren't enough in the evening because we don't have enough room for more programs or to have an adult program and a kids program. I think it is really well loved, and we got very high marks on our staff and our policies and our collections, but we are way below what the state recommends for space for a town of our size. So I just really wanted to ask, I think it would be an incredible sort of show place and launching place for people as they move into town to really have an improved, enlarged library. The library was here when I got here, so it's over 33 years old. So I just urge you to be able to support the expansion of the library to the fullest extent possible, because the more we can do, the better it will be. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Please use the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, that's fine. Okay, but if I get feedback, I'm going to the other mic. Hi, my name is Brenna Geiselman. I live at 11 Woodcliff Drive. And I am also here to speak somewhat passionately about the library and how important it is for us as young parents who are newer to the area. It was similarly the same place that my family went when we first moved to town 3.5 years ago. And it's been a place that we frequent at least once a week, if not more in the summertime when I'm home with them. And we don't have anything else to do, but we oftentimes can't get into the program because there's just not enough space. And so allowing us to have that kind of expansion would continue to foster programming as my children grow up in the town. Not only does it allow for children who are young to learn in a safe space, but it will continue to be a safe space as they become young teenagers who are looking to get away from mom and dad, who are super lame, but will keep them in a place where I know that they will be safe and watched over and not doing, I don't know what teenagers do. They kind of scare me at this point. But it also is a great learning environment in a time when I can't always afford to go to Barnes & Noble and get the latest copy of The Bakery Dragon because it's just too expensive. And I don't know if my children are going to like it. The library allows me to check out those books and return them, and other parents can enjoy them as well. But we don't have the space for all these new wonderful materials that keep coming out. It also is a great space for activities for children who don't necessarily have the interest in doing athletics or are too young to do athletics. I know my 3-year-old, when she gets to the point where she can do youth soccer, sure, she'll love it. But for the time being, she's just too young, and the library offers activities for her at this point. And it's also a place for learning to be fostered before school starts. So not all parents send their children to daycare. Not all parents send their children to preschool right away. And it gives parents a place to foster that love of learning before learning really starts officially. So I would implore you as board members to really think strongly and heavily consider financing the expansion of the library project, because it would mean so much for community building in the long term. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Joan Russell, 12 Brookside Drive in Granby. I've grown up in Granby, so I remember when the library started out over in the VNA building. And I can honestly say that in every part of my life, and probably especially now as I start to retire, the library has been a very important part of my life. It's wonderful that there's programs for every age group. You can go in there anytime and you can see little kids running around, and you can see older people at the computers and everybody in between. So I definitely support the expansion and hope that you will too.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Debbie Reelitz from 24 Silky Road, North Granby. Two important pieces. I was a homeschool mom. Ben Levine, who was a student rep for the Board of Selectmen for a couple years, started off with me, and he survived. But one of the reasons why he survived his experience as a homeschooler was the amazing library staff. The resources, if you guys haven't seen nonfiction children's books, you gotta check them out. They are amazing what kids can learn at early ages. The books that are available to children is phenomenal, and it's what made our homeschool journey possible. He's at McGill now, so the homeschooling and the public high school did well by him. So one, yes, I absolutely support the library expansion. From a homeschooler's perspective, as from a mom's perspective, I agree with what Ellen and you mentioned about the importance of the library. And the other piece is, as a professional calligrapher, I teach library programs all across the state. So I get to be in a lot of libraries. And the libraries that are the most dynamic, the most visited, have a wide range of services now. Everything from creation stations to performance areas to large program areas to areas to have coffee and, work, or have coffee and do homework, or, they have a huge amount of options for being able to come to the library. Those are the libraries that are the busiest and the most active. And it would be so awesome for Granby to have that available to us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Laurel Farr. I live on 212 Loomis, and I would just like to remind the board as you're making this very critical decision of the role that libraries play in our community outside of just lending books. So I have 5 top reasons. Number 1 is free access to the computers and internet for the digital equity of our residents. Number 2 is job search and workforce development resources to maintain or improve our local employment rates. Number 3 is a community calendar and city welcome center information to support resident attraction and retention. 4 is free, safe, inclusive gathering spaces for community networking, co-working, and emergency shelters. And finally, small business and entrepreneur supplies to support and improve our local corporate tax revenue. I'd like to let my takeaway be that libraries are not just a resource for readers, they are a critical key to our local economy.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Everyone, I'm Dan Jackham. I live at 218 Salmon Brook Street, and I have a family. I have a wife and 2 kids, 7-year-old and 4-year-old. And I'd just like to echo many of the comments made by everyone here, but one of the things I'd like to state is I grew up in this area. I lived in New York City for a while, and in New York, there's so much chance to interact with people on the street, on the subway. You're always passing by people. But in this town, I find that between the use of cars and the way technology is now, there's a real lack of just community interaction, and especially with small children. And we've really found that the library has been a fantastic place to find that community. We live just across from Salmon Brook Park, so we're often walking to the library. And it's great to see people we know, librarians we know. But as people have said, the space in the library is not so conducive to these community situations. When the kids have a great program, the library sometimes is filled with children, and after they're all trying to play, and there's just not really space for them to play there. So it would be great to see a library that has, for instance, my kids as they get older, a teen area would be fantastic, because the kids I see them come from the high school and they end up in the center of town, and they don't have a place they can go where they don't have to buy something, where they can just be. And kind of the final point is that what to me is so amazing with the library in terms of community is it allows collective participation, but also really individual participation. So as an individual, you can check out the books you like, you can go to the programs that you want to engage with, and you can leave other things behind. And then you'll meet people who also maybe have the same interests. And I hope a bigger library allows a bigger collection at the library. Most of the books we get are actually through interlibrary loan for the kids and for myself also. And that ability to just browse at the library and have space to read may have people, scholarly types, just being there more often. So those are some of my ideas. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone online? No? Okay. All right, we will close out public comment and move on to the Board of Ed, finalization of the middle school discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, so last week we were together. We brought you through sort of visual assessment of the current conditions at the middle school. Won't take too much time, but we would just like to finish that presentation. So thank you for your engagement, and I'll turn it over to Krista Gray, our Director of Facilities.
Thank you, and again, to echo what Sherry said, I know this is going on our third meeting We've had presentation and we've certainly given you a lot of information. I just want to personally thank you for your time and listening. We've put a lot of information together on a lot of these, and it's a lot of important things. So we appreciate everyone's efforts and collaborations in and out of these meetings. So we're just going to go over our last handful of slides related to the middle school. So we're just going to briefly go over the kitchen. So the 2 units you're looking at now used to be hot serving units. Those wells would serve hot foods. Those units are probably close to 20 feet long each. They're 2 separate ones. They're original to the building. The company that manufactured them is no longer in business. The elements to heat it are no longer available even on a secondary market. So they've kind of just retrofitted the use of them for things like fruits, boxes of cereals, things like that, but they can't serve any purpose to serve any heated food out of those areas. Next slide, please. So what we've done is on the left, we have a portable unit that we've gotten because there is a need to keep some of the various foods hot. And we've put that kind of at the tail end of that. And again, they just will continue to use the other sections for dry goods and vegetables and things, fruits and vegetables, things like that. But certainly, there's been no significant redesign of the kitchen space, and these 2 bays take up a significant amount of space that can't be used otherwise. Next slide, please. We have a kitchen area that used to have a window that was also a serving area, and it eventually became a dishwashing room. The dishwasher's not in working condition, and it would be cost prohibitive to purchase a new one at this time, so that's unusable space in that area as well. And orientation-wise, that's behind the 2 bays opposite of the main cooking area of the kitchen. Next slide, please.
So everything is served on paper, and then we hand wash any trays or serving items.
I guess why is it cost prohibitive? I mean, I understand that those are very expensive units, but why is it cost prohibitive to purchase a new one?
Well,
Or to fix
right
it?
now, I'm not sure when the switch was over to paper products for me, but it appears that, they've reduced it to 4 bays that are serving hot food out of.
Yeah, and what we learned in investigating these individual components of the kitchen is that to replace it, we can't replace it with the same thing. So space-wise, size, to fit it in with what's currently there, there's no market that currently allows us to fix any single of these components. So you would have to look at, reconfiguring the washing machine, or the dishwasher. That was one of the first things I asked about when I started 3 years ago, and I was just told that they couldn't find one that would replace it as it is now.
Okay.
Dale's reworked almost everything in the kitchen to keep it working. But this is at the end, was at the end of its life before I arrived, and because we've moved to paper, we're managing without it.
And then these are the original walk-in fridges from 1992. Next slide, please. Some of the ovens are beyond their useful life cycle, and in general, and speaking with different culinary vendors there, they'd like to see upgrades just for the efficiency of the short time frame they have to prepare meals for the different lunch times, and kind of get an opportunity to reimagine the space more purposefully for modern use. Next slide, please. In conjunction with that, being able to move equipment around, we do have some original water lines coming through different areas of the floor and some of our preparation areas that don't allow us to reimagine and move things around. It would involve kind of taking everything out of there and digging up the floor, rerouting drainage, water lines for more modern equipment. And then, do you want to speak a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, we have
Furniture
relatively
space?
new tables and furniture, which is great. It gives it a nice new look. However, the ceilings are high and the lighting is poor. Energy efficiency in this space is challenging. And it does get pretty crowded when you have kids running through the line. We've actually had a staff member injured just recently tripping over some of the chairs because it's really tight in there. So we're always looking to reconfigure and make it so that the number of students can fit that need to be in the cafeteria, but without redesigning some of the space and flow of the kitchen, there's not much we can do to improve it beyond that. Next slide, please, Catherine. The Library Media Center is also original to the building. You can see that a lot of the study carrels and things that were more popular in the early 90s have really just become storage use. We were able to move some of the shelving to open up the space a bit, but much like you just heard from some of the public comment, libraries are used for so many different things. In addition to book checkout, we run classes out of here in makerspace. If you would go to the next slide, Catherine, you can see that the ceiling height, we have paper over the windows to try to help with some of the sunlight that beats in and really causes a lack of energy efficiency with the sun coming in. So we need to address that at some point.
Sure. So the gym is currently not energy efficient. It lacks a sound system and is the only student meeting space in the school, and it doesn't meet the school capacity. So if you look at the bottom picture of those bleachers, if there were to be an assembly, it actually takes 6 to 8 of my maintainer and facility staff. Those aren't attached to the wall. They have to be rolled out and turned to an audience style, extended out. Where they are now, where you see the arrow on the bottom one as well as on the top right, those bleachers cannot fully extend. They would extend onto what would be the basketball court, which would be the primary use of that space, and they would overlap it. So that side cannot extend out. On the other side is a much shorter set. Because we have new bleachers going into the high school at the end of this month, we've engaged with BSN to kind of give a look at those and give us some options of how we can reconfigure that and what that might look like. Next slide, please. And then classroom spaces. So if you look at the picture on the left, it's a partition door that's outdated. The sound comes easily between the two rooms. The doors don't always shut. Those partitions are original to the building, and the company that made that particular set of partitions is no longer in business, and there's not a lot of options for retrofitting them. And just outdated furnishings, and having been there with some consultants, you could easily hear from one room to the next while classes were in session. Workshop classroom, same, just furniture needs, modernization, updating. Next slide, please. More wood shop, again, as we've said over and over, everything original to the building. Just needs some modernization and updating so they have a proper workspace.
We talked about some of this with the electrical being run and things like that last time, so we won't repeat those, but this is the same space that you saw earlier with the electrical cords and some of the challenges there with trying to retrofit old space with new equipment. And the next slide, Catherine. One of our shop teachers built these, added on to what was there to try to retrofit some of the space to to get more students into the lab. Usually when I go into this space, there are kids sitting all along the floor because there's not enough seats for a full class of kids, so it's not safe. I mean, there's one exit, lots of kids trying to use the technology, 3D printers, and coding happens in this space. It's very, very limited, and this is where we captured some of the photos with the cords that we spoke about last time, and it's just not meeting the needs any longer of tech ed. Next slide, please. This is our home ec space. I think just the colors are reminiscent of the early 90s, so you can certainly tell by looking. We have continued to upgrade this space. Every time something comes offline in another location, we bring it here. So we have replaced some of the dishwashers over recent years. We brought in some furniture when a science classroom at the high school was redesigned. So it's a lot of hand-me-downs and mismatched things. A lot of equipment that's beyond its useful life, but we do great things in this space and kids really enjoy it, so we'd love to see this room come into the current year. Next slide. Many of the classrooms, as we talked about before, are odd shaped. You can see that this is a very interesting shape. There's only one window on one far wall. It really creates a lot of challenges for small group work and the way that we instruct our students now. In addition, many of our classrooms at the middle school are just not ADA compliant. When we have a child in a wheelchair, we have to move everything to make space for that child to be sort of near the door because there's just not ample room. All of the furniture is also original to 1992, and so you can see the wear and tear in some of these desks and things. Definitely time for a refresh. Next slide. Again, original furnishing. We have a number of our science lab equipment that is no longer working and completely offline. Chris, what did you tell me that is?
Look, it's an autoclave ventilation unit.
Mm-hmm. And it's not able to be used. Next slide. Same sort of thing, only one exit, absolutely no windows, teeny tiny. This is like a little triangle, and we meet with 3 or 4 children at a time for small group instruction and support for special education or intervention needs. Next slide. All of our employees, really all of them except maybe the main office, don't have true office spaces. They're all closets that have been retrofitted into workspaces. And many of these spaces do include working with children in these spaces. So they're very small, no windows, only one exit. Definitely some challenges there. I'll let you take over in this part.
So what we've heard in speaking to staff in the school is these lockers don't really suit the needs of today's students. Usually overflowed, they don't fit the students' needs. Most of them don't properly close at all, and their latch systems are gone or disabled, and there aren't replacements for them. Next slide, please. Current conditions of the bathrooms, drainage, toilets. Many of the fixtures are original to the building. Corroding bathroom stalls, stained sinks that have just been stained over the course of 30 plus years. As we need to upgrade, obviously we do toilets and things like that, but as you can see as the primary sink fixture for there, that's in need of a total replacement. And there's some ADA accessibility issues with some of the stalls as well.
And this is not for lack of cleaning?
No, this is permanent staining. Next slide, please. Same with the locker room, which is part of our community.
It's our town's primary shelter. Yeah.
Shelter for the community. Locker rooms, they serve as the primary emergency shelter. Showers and drainage systems need to be updated. A lot of outdated handles that are hard to retrofit, and drainage, and just some of the pictures speak for themselves. Next slide, please. That's the presentation.
So the purpose last meeting and this brief opportunity tonight is really just to provide you with that first look to the visual assessment without getting into the weeds and the mechanicals. We were able to highlight for you some of the key takeaways, really, that the building itself was built for a different time in education. So certainly opportunity for growth when you compare current academic environments and learning environments with what was really a proud and beautiful space 34 years ago. By the time we are to go through this process with a bond and make some renovations, the building will be just about 40 years old, even if we start right now. And so we are starting to struggle to keep up with the level of repair that's necessary. In addition to that, you heard last time about some of our concerns with what code was in the early 90s versus what current best practice and even required building code is currently. such as the fact that we only have about 30% of the building with a sprinkler system. We've been chipping away year over year, and we will continue to do that through our small cap and operating budget. However, we really feel that now's the time to start to invest in a more sizable dollars into the middle school so that we can get over that hump and really bring it up to present day learning environments. Next meeting on the 24th, Kevin has provided us the opportunity to bring in 2 consultants from Collier's consultation firm. They will be able to talk with you a little bit more in the weeds about what's really behind what we can see visually, as well as the timeline and considerations for reimbursement if we should engage in any type of a renovation project. So I just wanted to ask if there were any questions at this time that I could jot down. If not, certainly we're happy to have questions emailed to us, but I would appreciate the opportunity to have any bigger questions shared with us ahead of time so that we can be prepared to answer those for you on the 24th.
I have one. The academic space, the classrooms, they didn't come up at all. They function as, what goes on in there, they're adequate. There weren't any suggestions or needs expressed in the classrooms.
So we have a section on classrooms, and I don't know that if we want to go back to that or not, but really some of the challenges with our classrooms is that the space, they're all very odd shaped, and we have partitions.
Well, I'm talking about the normal, English, math, not the.
Yeah, this is a science.
Like electronic.
I understand what you mean. And the culinary space as opposed to so
Picture in there with the there's a regular
yeah
with desks. Keep going.
Like this is a typical classroom. It says Spanish, but our English classroom looks exactly the same. So most of our classrooms have odd shapes. All of it's original. It's concrete. There's one small window. And would it take a lot to upgrade this? No, I don't think it would. I think there's a lot of, cosmetics and lighting. You can see even in this photo that the ceiling tiles are bowing. There's many lights are offline. So all in all, I would say, frankly, every space in the middle school is seeing its age. Some areas certainly need a little bit more from a budget perspective than others. We put a bunch of paint in the hallways, and it made a drastic improvement just by getting rid of some of the really dark. It's a very dark building. If you've been in the middle school, the ceilings are low and the space is dark. There's very little natural light. It's all fluorescent lighting. It's not energy efficient. But we make great things happen in these spaces. So I think your traditional classrooms are going to be much more conducive to current learning because teachers are creative. They move desks in and out. They bring in all their own ways of making it feel homey and inviting. But some of the function of the spaces definitely needs to be brought up to modern learning standards.
So this Spanish classroom that we're looking at serves as a homeroom in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They all serve as homerooms. They all serve as crew classrooms, study halls. Yeah, you'll have 24 students in there for Spanish. Yep. Yep.
And I guess this might come, down the road, but I guess a couple of the things that I'm kind of noting is like you're talking about configuration of the building.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm trying to, in my mind, size up the scope of really what's being asked, right? So at one point, you could invest in new desks, ceiling, replace lockers, kind of go through down that list. The configuration will not change.
Correct.
Or is it that you're looking for actual expansion of the footprint of the building? I guess I'm not.
So we're not sure yet. So there's something called ed specs, educational specifications, which is what our reimbursement is based on. So as much as I would love to say, I'd really like all rectangular classrooms that can seat, 30 kids. If our enrollment doesn't support that I need that many classrooms with space for 30 kids each, then the state will not reimburse us for a project that size. So we will be confined to very strict rules and regulations by the state of Connecticut as to what is reimbursable. So we will not propose a project that wouldn't be reimbursable at the highest percentage. That's why we're still engaging with so many layers to this project, and that's why we still have that TBD. If I could just make a list of all the things that I think need fixed and get a number for that, we would have done that already. On November 24th, when the consultants come, they will help all of us, because we're still learning as well, understand what those checks and balances are. My understanding, in the simplest way I can explain it, is that we have to have a study into the ed specs, which basically is a person who comes out. We just contract with him. It's about $4,000 or so to have him come out. He's already walked the building once. He's going to take a lot of measurements, and then he's going to talk to teachers and staff at the middle school to say, what works for you in this space? What are some of the pain points in this space? Now, if a teacher says, I want a couch in the back and mood lighting, and that's not what he's interested in. He's interested in hearing approximately how big are your class sizes? Let me see the schedule and the class lists. How many sections are operating out of this space? How many Spanish classes do we have? So he's going to look at a lot of the data and the facts, and then he's going to talk with staff to assess what the needs are. Some are going to be much easier, and frankly, those are the ones that we chose to share with you. The ones that I don't need a depth of knowledge to see that there's extension cords hanging everywhere, or there's corrosion on the pipes, or there's that visual assessment was already able to identify these as areas to pay attention to. But until we do a little bit of a deeper dive, we really can't answer, like to Bill's question, is this space operating okay or not? I think that many of our spaces are operating. We do not believe that we will be proposing an addition or a new build or any kind of drastic. We really think that the bones of the building are good. Things need to be renovated, and we'd like to get some more natural light into the space and there's code around natural light and all those kinds of crazy things now that I, as the superintendent, need to be able to sign off on and attest to the state that students have access to things like fresh air, HVAC, natural light. I was shocked, frankly, when I saw the list of things that we need to assess and then report on prior to the application that goes to the state to consider us for a priority grant. So I don't have nearly the details that I know everyone would like to hear, but we're getting closer every day. We're working really hard at it, but I don't want to mislead the committee. At this point, though, we believe the bones of the building are very good. HVAC is a concern. Sprinkler system is a concern. The kitchen is a real concern. And then some more I'll say aesthetics and upgrades around modernizing some of the spaces to meet the needs of our current teaching and learning environments is the focus.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, I missed the last meeting. Do we have a guesstimate on a number here?
Nope.
Or not yet?
Nope. We don't. We have two numbers on the 10-year capital plan. The $3 million-ish is from the visual assessment, and I think that packet that you all have really explains that that's just the surface. It's just what we can see. And then we had an approximate based on square footage for a renovation at about 21 million. But we don't have something specific to the middle school until we go through all, and that's 21 million prior to our reimbursement, which is about 50%. But we don't have all those details yet. We've been working on this. It often takes years to get to that point.
Are we considering knocking it down and building a new building? And the reason I'm asking is if it's 30 million or 40 million to renovate, and it's 60 million to build a new one, but we do the 30 million only to discover that there's 10 million more
to do.
And Project Creep, right? The guy comes out, says, I'll do the kitchen for 20,000, and the next thing you know, it's 42 because the subflooring, electrical, and plumbing all
Yeah.
had to be replaced. Like,
I hear you. Those are the questions that we proposed to Colliers. They were recommended to us by area superintendents that I work closely with who have recently done renovation projects. And they will be here the next meeting to answer exactly those questions. We just did another conference call with them where we basically said, what would it look like, dollars and cents, based on what you know about our school and your area of expertise doing this exact work in neighboring communities, to, through a smaller financial allocation year over year, fix the kitchen year one, upgrades to the classrooms year two, upgrades to the technology infrastructure year three. Like, what would that look like? And what might that number be? And they're going to factor in things like 5 years from now, it's going to cost more than it costs right now if we chip away at it. What would the number be if we renovate to new, which is the terminology that they use? What might it look like if we built new, like on the same property? Those are all considerations. That's what you do when you go through building projects. So they will answer, I think, many of those questions for you. We've been asking all the same answers. I'm just not at a point yet, David, even between now and the 24th, I have enrollment study, I've got ed specs happening. I mean, there's so many things that we're trying to do really, really quickly. I had reached out to Mike Walsh last week when we were chatting with Colliers just to say, like, am I still somewhat in the ballpark for what our timeline is? Because what this committee determines as the timeline for going to referendum and all of that, that will impact these projects, obviously, as well. So I have many more questions than I have answers at this point, but we're working really hard to try to get a comprehensive project in front of you in the next couple of months.
and just one editorial comment on the law firm. It's been my observation that students just don't use them anymore. I don't care what the size is. It's just they
Yeah.
carry their stuff in their backpacks, they wear a sweatshirt, they
High
don't
school
wear a
does.
jacket.
Yeah.
Nobody's using the law.
Yeah, that is very true at our high school. When Heather Tanis started as principal, are now requiring students to use them because these classrooms cannot have backpacks and coats on the floor. We've had way too many children get hurt. And we had some pushback from parents about it for sure. We taught kids how to use locks, which was a new experience for many of them since COVID. But we do use them at the middle school because we have to. And they don't go really far. They can get what they need in between. We're trying to use the Chromebooks more than a lot of books and notebooks. But these classrooms, all these odd shapes with desks that are huge. These desks are so big. They're not like your newer desks that are light and easy to move around. These are heavy metal frame desks. When kids put backpacks and coats on these, it's awful. It's unsafe. So 2 years ago, we made the decision to require kids to use their lockers at the middle school. But you are correct. High school kids are not using them at all.
The building wasn't originally designed with wall lockers. In fact, the original
They were added
corridors
in.
were 8 feet. And the question came up as to, shouldn't we add a foot to the classrooms and make the corridors 6 feet? And that was decided, and then wall lockers were added before school started, and the hallways became a mess.
They're so narrow, it's crowded. Yes, you're absolutely right. You can tell that they were added after.
How did we pay for the kitchen project at the high school? Does anybody know?
It was a part of the project.
Part of the last bond?
Yes.
And did we consider doing the middle school at the same time, or? Yes.
No. In fact, we didn't get the media center at the high school done on the last because of the amount of the total project.
So I have the same concern about the timing. I think I asked this last time. So, we're, roughly speaking, I think we talked about in order to even get the track project going to save the season, we'd have to be at referendum in April. Is there any possible chance that this is going to come together in a way that we can be ready in April on this project?
So My honest answer is that would be really difficult. I thought that that was possible. Mike, I'll let you speak to the timeline because that was my exact question. And I was sitting with our consultants going, oh, wow, I don't know. I don't think we can pull this off by April. So you are correct. The timeline for the track, which we know is much more urgent in the sense that we're going to be offline, we're ready now. We can be ready if we have the funding. The middle school, I just don't think we're going to get another chance. We have to do it right the first time, and there are a lot of decisions that need to be made, and they need to be made thoughtfully, driven by data, and so I know I keep saying this, but I think next meeting when Colliers are here, I ask them to speak to that specifically because I was having a little bit of a panic, to be really honest, with the last couple of calls that we've had with them, because we still have to operate a school district. We still have budget season coming. We still have all the other work, and we are spending, Krista Gray is spending, I mean, I'm not exaggerating, 14 hours a day. It's a lot of work.
So that would, you asked for like the prep questions for colleagues.
Correct.
Next question
Yes.
I'm going to ask is,
You got it.
is part of their process that they're helping us go through, will they, I'm just going to make this up so nobody hold me to
Yeah, but just-
But let's say we're looking at April and then, again, making it up, we're 5 years before we do the next bond. So is part of what Colliers is going to do is identify that if that turns out to be true, the next bond issuance is 5 years away, what do they recommend we do between now and then?
Yep, perfect.
And that's part of what
It's
they're
part of what we just discussed with them. And I also asked a question around the work that we're doing right now to do ed specs, to do a deep dive into enrollment because the state requires so many things. My question was, are we going to have to redo this if we're really not jumping into this for another year or 2 years or whatever it might be? And the answer was no. All of these things that you're spending time doing now, for the most part, will have to have the most recent enrollment. That's sort of an annual look anyway. Ed specs would last unless we drastically change our philosophy around teaching and learning, which I don't believe is going to happen. So it would be a stretch to be ready for April. And I know that's what we had originally discussed for bond. So yes, I've already posed those questions and they will be prepared to walk us through some of those different scenarios next time. Yep.
Talking about enrollment, is it specific to the middle school enrollment only?
No.
Or total enrollment?
No, total enrollment, and they have to have 10 years. 8 years is required, but we'll do 10. They just called the town, I think today or yesterday, to get all of the, projections for what's being built in town, they studied the whole landscape, which frankly hasn't been done in a little while from the school district's perspective. We've been using the same company for a number of years, and then they were just updating, which is responsible to do. But if we're going to go to the town, I have to have deep dive of numbers, and so we're engaging in a new enrollment study to really make sure there's been some building, there's been some turnover of real estate, so really making sure that we're as accurate a picture as we can, because we have to look at our kindergarten size to see. Yeah.
So at one time, the middle school served 7th and 8th grade only.
That's correct.
And then the 6th graders were added. I think they went back and forth a couple of times. Is there any possibility that 6th graders will go back to Wells?
I don't see that being possible, and again, that enrollment projection for 10 years will really help us with that. But because first of all, our elementary schools do not have empty classrooms. Yes, our enrollment has slightly decreased, but when we look over what was I did in the budget season, it was like over 5 years we're 4 kids different. So we keep talking about declining enrollment, but truly it's very slight. And we have speech and language and occupational therapy and behavior classrooms, and the needs of the way that we're teaching have shifted. So the space cannot fit 6th grade. I believe that happened when Kearns was closed, but again, it's things I've read. I wasn't part of the time, but so no, I very much think that our middle school has to stay a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade school. Yeah. Looking at our current enrollment and needs in our other schools.
So 2 grades that are in there now. How many kids?
In 6th, 7th, and 8th grade?
No, well, you have 3 grades now.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8.
430 or so students.
Okay. Because it was built, target 450, but up to 500, 540.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on to the town and the library discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can invite Amber up and anybody else you are bringing with you, I'll set the stage for a discussion that we're prepared to have tonight on the library. If the members of the CPAC committee recall, they received the September 30th, 2025 memo, which was the middle of the 10-year capital improvement plan. That plan is first approved by the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen went ahead and recommended $7 million for the library expansion. But that number needs to be refined a bit, and let me explain that. Also in your package that was transmitted to you was a summary of a proposed library expansion project. Briefly, it talks about the situation on the ground, where the public library does not have enough space. You heard a number of residents come forward today and talk about that. Some of the background work to get us to today. The library director and library board worked cooperatively compiling expansion plans. We even put a substantial amount of American Rescue Plan Act funding to pay for an architect to explore various size expansion options and preliminary cost estimates. You will see a $7 million option in front of you tonight. There are also other ways to look at the expansion. The town's financial situation, as I've regularly said, the town has made some very good financial decisions to put the community on solid financial footing. However, Granby bonds large capital projects approximately once every 7 years to maintain financial flexibility and stability. 2026 is that 7th year, and a bonding opportunity will present itself to the town and the Board of Ed. We're thinking something in the neighborhood of around $13 million would be considered, and CPAC would make the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to identify how that money is allocated. The town will also like you to consider sewer pump replacements and a pickleball facility at Salmon Brook Park outside of the above bond, recognizing those costs would be paid for out of the individual funds, in particular the sewer fund and the Parks and Recreation Fund. We certainly understand that CPAC and or the community could change these priorities and the amounts as the process unfolds. So after much work, thought, and discussion, the Board of Selectmen, the Library Director, and the Library Board recommended the $7 million, and that may be put to the voters to consider. Because the library expansion is budgeted $7 million, $4 million is likely coming from town budget, bonding, but that would require or leave a $3 million gap. The thought is that a capital campaign and a search for innovative grants would close the gap. Futuristically, the Granby Library Association could possibly raise $2 million by launching a capital campaign in the month of November 2025. And then the library director has been given the green light to go ahead and search for innovative grants in the amount of $1 million so that the whole $7 million project can commence. If fundraising and grant searches are more successful, the library expansion may increase. If there are cost overruns, capital funds dedicated to any cost overruns would come from that capital campaign as the taxpayer contribution would be fixed. And just 4 other considerations before I turn it over to Amber. For the capital campaign, the Granbury Library Association will be the repository for any capital campaign contributions secured. The town and the town staff can only use town budgeted funds to provide neutral project information. We cannot promote the library using town funds. We can only educate the community about the expansion. The Friends of the Granby Public Library and the Granby Library Association can promote the library expansion, but must use their own funds to do that. And then finally, the Friends and the Granby Public Libraries and the Library Association must remain at arm's length from the town of the Granby Library staff. So I lay the kind of the rules of engagement so that everybody understands at any point in time who's advocating for what and what the responsibilities of the staff are. So with that said, Amber, let me turn it over to you, and you can get right to your presentation.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for an opportunity to meet with you all tonight and share a little bit more about the work we've been doing and what we've been finding with lots of help from the community and some consultants. So as you can see up on the screen, we are looking at the next chapter of the Granby Public Library. This is a rendering that was provided to us by an architect, but we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Next slide. And so a little bit about the library. The mission of the library is to support intellectual freedom and the right of individuals to read, learn, and gather together in a safe, friendly, and welcoming environment. The library provides free access to diverse ideas, resources, and experiences, and strives to enhance the quality of life in our community by providing and encouraging lifelong learning through a variety of resources. So over the last year, we've had 62,759 visitors to the library and still counting. 98,589 items were borrowed, and that's about 9 items per resident. And we've had 464 total programs for kids, teens, and adults. We've been very busy, and we get busier by the day. And I could share a lot more about the library, but I would like you to hear from the community because this is really all about the community. So, Catherine, next slide, please. I reached out to a lot of our library advocates and I asked them if they would help me create a video so that you could hear some more information straight from the people, because our goal is really to go from cramped to connected. So throughout my presentation, I will be sharing with you what some people had to say. So go ahead and play this.
My family and I have a very special relationship with libraries. We have moved and lived all over this country, from Utah to Colorado to California to Washington and finally now in Connecticut. And the first place that we would always go anytime we moved anywhere was the library, because it is such a hub of the community. We know that we can find access to people and resources and information that will help us get to know the local culture and help us feel more integrated into the community.
I don't know what we would do without the library. It makes a huge impact in our lives. We're here at least once a week. It's a free, accessible resource for my girls and I. It's somewhere for us to come and feel safe and welcome. We read here, we learn here, we make friends here. I really don't know what we would do without the library.
Well, my name is Jane Reardon, and I have been a reader my whole life, and I just love coming to the library and seeing what's new, finding authors that I want to read. I probably come to the library a minimum of 3 times a week.
So as you can see, we try to provide something for everyone. And we've been doing this since 1869. So in 1869, the Granby Library Association created and held a subscription library. And in 1877, they built a new library down in the center of town. But in 1917, that was destroyed by a fire. Then the library board was created in 1966 and chosen to govern the library system of Granby, and they worked to build the library building as we know it today in 1982. The population of our town at that time was about 7,000 people. In 2001, we were very lucky that the senior center was built, and the senior center was able to move out of the library and move into their own building. Our children's room moved over to the old senior center area, giving us a little bit more space, and we also received some new carpet. These are all milestones of the building of the library building. In 2019, we received a new library roof and a patio, and in 2024, we received some new carpet and paint with ARPA funds. So this is how our building has grown throughout the years. Next. But now we've hit a problem. Our space is no longer meeting community demand. As you can see from this picture, we have got 8 computer stations. And according to the Connecticut State Library standards, best practices for public libraries, we should have 22 computers. And we just currently do not have the space to add any extra workstations. Next slide. We also are showing great wear and outdated infrastructure. The areas that did not get paint and carpet, you can see that the wallpaper is peeling, the carpet is stained, and our mechanical room is dated and is frequently breaking down or just does not provide balanced heat and AC throughout the building. You're either hot or you're cold, or you get a little bit of both every day. Next slide, please. We're also finding it very difficult to host programs, as you heard from our public comment. This was a program that we recently held, and as you can see, there was just not enough room for people. People had to sit on the floor. One picture that's not up there is the people that left because there just wasn't room for them. But this is what is becoming the problem, is we just don't have the space. Next slide. And we're also limited space for materials and resources. When this building was built in 1981, 1982, we had about 27,000 physical items, 27,731. So when we moved into this new space, that's what we had. And now we are at 59,506 physical items. In order to bring in new things, we literally have to throw things away. Next slide, please. So as Granby has grown, so have the needs of the community. And again, I went out and I asked our people, our community, what are the kinds of things that you think the library could provide for you? What are the needs? And this is what they had to say. Oh, go back 1 second, Calvin. This is a movie or a video. At least it should be. It doesn't look like it is. What? That should be a video. Is there a play? Yeah. Yep, there it is. That's okay.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why we need more space, but just for instance, when we do the programs here at the library, we do them to children, teens, and adults. A lot of times we just simply don't have the room to meet the needs for the programs.
We didn't have all the events outside. Because we didn't have enough space. And in the winter time, it's really hard to do them outside. Summertime events outside are nice. But then it's like raining. That's true. And then have to be canceled. When they hold all the events, it really helps bring the community together.
One thing the Friends does is we raise money. It all goes to the library. So I know a lot goes into programming, but for whatever other needs that the library has, goes right to that. More space for a dedicated area to sell our books and other items year-round.
Next slide. So this idea of an expansion of the library is not new. This actually first came up in 2007. The library board began discussion on a possible expansion and needs assessment, and even then they were saying the children's room is too small, there's inadequate shelf space, not enough meeting rooms. So this came right off of library board minutes from September of 2007. And so they began a process at that time of a possible expansion. They consulted with an architect and they had some ideas. They included adding a second floor of 18,000 square feet and doing a 10,000, that should not be a dollar sign, 10,000 square foot renovation of the first floor, and that would have been at $9 million. Demo the building and create a whole new library at $10 million, or build a whole new library at a new location, also at $10 million. Next slide. But in May of 2008, in May of 2008, the Board of Selectmen approved a library study committee. They did a lot of thinking about it. They had a goal of 10,000 square feet addition. They interviewed architects in early 2009, and then shortly after they interviewed architects, the Board of Selectmen denied any future funding for this project. So over time, it stays consistent in library board meeting minutes of the importance of it. In 2018, a new director began, and they really stressed the need for more space. And then, unfortunately, we know COVID came. And so I began in April, May of 2023, and the rest of this is the process that we've been working on since that time. And from the day I started, it was asked of me to work on this because it's a major priority. Next slide. So shortly after I started, we worked with Northeast Collaborative Architects. We used ARPA funds to pay for a feasibility space study. Their job was to come in and assess the current use of library space, identify functional needs, explore options for improvement or expansion, evaluate structural and mechanical systems, analyze user traffic patterns, community survey data, gather input from stakeholders, and to follow the Connecticut State Library's Space Planning Guide and Best Practices of Public Libraries Guide. So the Connecticut State Library provides a library space planning guide that every library has to fill out if they are interested in doing an expansion. And they also provide a best practices of public libraries guidelines to follow to see how your library measures up across libraries across Connecticut and as a baseline of what your library should be. Next slide. This study gave us many deliverables, including conceptual designs, renderings, cost estimates, and a phased implementation recommendations of how we could get the job done. Next slide. So back to those state library standards. These best practices document was one of the key documents that the architect had to work with. They went through the state standards and the planning guide to determine exactly what we need. The tool is structured around 5 key areas: facilities, finances, governance, resources and services, and staffing. And in almost every area, we are either essential or enhanced, except for when it comes to our facilities. In our facilities, we did not meet benchmark. And based on our population, we should be at a 1.7 square foot per capita. Next slide, please. This is our current library space, and you will see we are at 9,856 square feet, which is only 0.84 per capita. Based on the guidelines from the state, we should be at about 19,000 square feet, 1.64 per capita, based off of our population in 2035. Our population doesn't grow much to 2035, but our population has grown a lot since 1982. So we are just trying to make the library be the size that it should be for today. So we're catching up. Next slide, please. The study also brought back 5 top priorities. A lot of what you've heard from public comment and from our videos was expanded children's department with active play area, quiet areas, and program room, a dedicated teen space or teen room, a large multi-purpose program space, increase available study and meeting rooms, and storage for both library, the Friends, gallery space, cafe, computer lab / makerspace, a tech area. So we also went out and did a lot of found a lot of community input through, what is the word I'm looking for? Surveys. Surveys, thank you. We asked people at Geisters, we went to the YMCA, we did them electronic, we did them on paper, we did them at the library. We had almost 300 participants, which is quite a lot when you look back at previous surveys. And the 3 top questions about our actual building included, how important do you believe it is? How likely would you be to vote yes? And how likely would you be to donate towards a project? And as you can see, almost always it was a 3, 4, or 5. And the 5s were absolutely yes. And many people were supportive of this project through our surveys. Next slide. So a little bit more. We collected all of that data, and here's a little bit more about what we're trying to do.
I wish the library had a place where they could go and have some quiet time. They love to come here and read and play and sing with their friends, but they would also love to have some quiet place that they can read on their own or that I can read to them. So I'd really love just a little more space.
But we could use more space. It would be nice to be able to get newer releases like books. It's just not space on the shelves. It would be fantastic to have more areas where you could bring your computer and work on something. The library is just a great resource for the town. With anything you need help with, the library can help you with.
With that children's room, the space for their play is just limited. Also, there's not very good space to sit.
Very active and vibrant children's room, and not a lot of space there.
They have the room for like the little kids, and then they also have they have like the kids section and adult section and like reading. It would really sort of like a good place for like the teens to go for like a teen room or like a tween room where like it's just meant for like kids in middle or high school.
It'd be really nice. Right now, I see a lot of the middle schoolers going to the center, and I wish instead they felt like they could come to the library and do homework or work on projects together. Right. Because right now, I see them often just kind of purchasing things at Starbucks, and I really think that they love to walk to the center. They just don't really ever think of the library as a place to go, because there's the kids' room, and it's really a little bit too little kiddish. And I think that that age does not feel comfortable coming to the adult side yet.
When you have a good kids program, I mean, one, there's not room for everybody sometimes. People have to turn away. And then afterwards, the kids don't want to play, and it's so crowded in that children's room. And it's so nice because there's so much activity, but it can't.
Right now, we're sharing the teens and the adult space for me, and listen, they should have their own space. They don't need their own space. This is the time of their lives that they need to be with people their own age.
All right, so that space. So we received, this was one of the first conceptual designs that we received through the Northeast Collaborative Architects that we worked with. This is that $7 million project that what Mike mentioned. The outline in red is where our current footprint is, so you can see what would be added on. This gives us a larger children's room, program room, cafe, gallery, dedicated teen space, and one additional meeting room. It is missing some very important parts, which would be the kids' bathroom, much needed storage, computer lab, makerspace area, additional collection space, and meeting space, which was a big need for our community. This is a total of 12,479 square feet, only 1.06 per capita, still not meeting state standards. Next slide, please. These are some of the renderings that the architects provided. So this is kind of what the children's program room could look like, and what the exterior of the building could look like. They also provided us with 3 other conceptual designs, and we used them to determine other ideas and things that we liked and disliked, but this was the $7 million option that Mike spoke of. Next slide. Then in September, we were lucky enough to be sponsored by the Lamar Johnson Collaborative, which is a major architecture firm in St. Louis, Missouri. And they allowed us to come to the Library Journal Design Institute. So Michelle Kaminsky, our children's librarian, and I, we went and we were able to tour this beautiful new library space. Lamar Johnson Collaborative had built 21 libraries in 10 years, so they are an expert in the field. And they talked to us a lot about, we had many sessions that we attended, including budgeting, navigating the numbers, creating the library as a community hub, making flexible spaces, resilient futures, finding ways to be sustainable, and finding ways to make it technology and future ready. And then next slide. And we were also privileged to receive free conceptual designs from them. They gave us 3 external layouts and 3 internal layouts. This is one of them that they provided. This would be an $11 million project. This adds everything that's on our wish list, and it also is 19,700 square feet, 1.68 per capita, meeting the needs, or meeting the state standards. You can see that red outline again is our current footprint and how they would add on to it. They also allowed us the ability to really reconfigure and think about our current space and how it could be used differently, and really take advantage of that space. And if you notice the red circle down at the bottom of the picture, that is a fully functioning cafe. So this is a space that we could put a vendor in and that we could have as an additional source of revenue. And this could support additional operating needs or support custodial services, but it is an opportunity to, we have a bigger space, and I think that that could help supplement costs. And this is Lamar Johnson Collaborative also provided us with what the exterior of the building could look like. Catherine, this is also a video. Lots of natural light. They did reconfigure the center area of the parking lot to provide more walkways, more benches, utilizing more natural outside space. Next slide. These are some of the renderings that they provided us for free. So there is the cafe. That's what the exterior layout would look like. There's also a covered area outside of the cafe area that would have tables and chairs for people to be able to utilize more space outside, additional collection space, and then the exterior of the building there. Next slide. Here are some other things that, these are not renderings that they provided, but just to remind you that this would also allow us to do multi-purpose program space, a gallery for our local artists, lots of meeting rooms. This plan did give us an addition of 5 meeting rooms, and the computer lab / makerspace area. As you know, our makerspace is currently up at the Cossett Library, and it is not ADA accessible. We have lots of requests to move the makerspace to the main library so that it's accessible to all. So this would be one of our big goals, would be to move it to the main library. Next slide. So, as we did here too, the library has become more than just books. As you can see here up in the top left corner, this is our digitizing station up at Cossett. This is a place where people can go and digitize all of their old technology, whether it's VHS or 8mm. Lots of people are up there just archiving their family treasures. It's been wonderful to see the stories that have taken place up there. We also have a library of things. This includes things like metal detectors and a telescope. We have a projector, an outdoor movie screen. We have a variety of things so that it is just more resources for people to be able to borrow and take advantage of free and not have to worry about purchasing on their own. We also have memory kits, which is to help our patrons that might be battling memory issues or dementia. We do have a little space for art, but we would really like to be able to support our local artists better. And then down there in the bottom middle, we do have a small technology class happening. So we are doing adult education by providing technology and increasing our digital literacy across the board. And there's one more.
Understanding about libraries that they are only for readers, or they're only for young children, or for seniors. The programming is very specific to certain people, and that's just not the case. I love that the motto of this library is something for everyone, because that's exactly what it is. We are striving to provide programming resources for everybody, no matter what your interests are, no matter what your profession is, no matter what your goals are. There's resources that can help you attain them. And not only resources, but resources for free.
We especially love the programs at the library. We use those as much as we can possibly fit them in because there's such a great variety of crafts or STEM or story time. Those are things that we have really enjoyed doing for the kids. Yeah, that's a great one. There's a lot of family programs too, when we do tie-dyeing or pumpkin carving, things that we can do together.
Having volunteered at the Casa Makerspace since its very beginning, it's been a weekly highlight for me. And to be a part of a community space where we learn to use otherwise unavailable technology and learn from each other.
I'm Brittany Saunders. I am a Granby Public Library employee. I also happen to have muscular dystrophy. Getting in the building is kind of hard because we don't have a handicap accessible staff entrance. Another thing that I have noticed since getting to be a wheelchair user at some point is our bathrooms. They are not handicap accessible. We only have one handicap accessible, and that's
Next slide, please. All right, so I wanted to, after all of that, to remind you that the library has a great return on investment. The state library does provide for us a return on investment calculator that we submit all of our information to, and it gives us back exactly the benefits to the community. So as you can see here, for every town tax dollar invested, there is a $10.84 return on investment. Essentially, if every resident borrowed 4 books from the library, they will have used their taxes to complete that. And here's a few other stats about the library. So again, our return on investment.
We really need a bigger library in Granby, and we missed opportunity not to invest in our community. As we grow, as the town grows, and new children are born each year, they need this resource. It's free, it's inclusive, it's accessible to everyone, and we just need to invest in our community.
The value of the resources that the library provides are often interpreted to be of personal value. They would be fun for me and my family. But the perspective that I bring is that the value that these resources provide have massive economic value. So the resources that people have of access to free computers, free internet, even the tools in the makerspace can all be leveraged to stimulate and incubate small businesses and entrepreneurship. It can have a massive impact on the corporate tax revenue of a small town like ours.
The goals of the renovation are to help meet the needs of the community, not only when the renovation is done, but also for many years into the future.
All right, next slide. So this is how we get it done. This is our goal funding. We are here tonight. I know that we've gone back and forth looking at $4 million to $7 million. That is essentially what we need to determine of where we would be with that. But our grants goal is at $2,500,000. The Connecticut State Library offers a $2 million library construction grant that does require matching funds. I do intend to apply for that in the spring. That grant is open to libraries that are showing innovation and meeting the needs of the space planning guide, with some wiggle room if you are being more innovative. And our capital campaign goal that we have recently just kicked off has a $2 million goal. We did do a campaign study with a group called campaignCouncil.org, and they did come back in their final study and say that we could do a $2 to $3 million capital campaign, and they think that that would be a successful campaign for us. We have already been awarded $100,000 through GEF towards a teen room, and we are already collecting donations that we are working towards this goal. And any questions?
I have a few thoughts. So when I was principal at this Granby library renovation project, right? And one of the places we went to was Hartford Public Library, which I don't know if you've seen it, but it's, they have reading nooks, they have beanbag chairs, they have 3D spaces. But also, they did a pretty big cull of their library collection, and we replaced a lot of books with a lot more computers. Mm-hmm. And I think UConn's done the same thing. If you've seen, this is not Sterling Library, that's Yale, but anyway, I think the first 2 floors now at UConn are nothing but computers. So the world is moving towards digital collections and away from hard copies. And I was thinking that with 59,000 books, maybe it's time for a cull.
We frequently read. We're constantly reading out books, but you will also hear the other opinion that people don't want us to get rid of things. So we have to be very careful with our selection. But we frequently read books. And I do hear we do have a lot of books. But as you heard from public comment, they still don't think our collection is enough. So when we ask people why they go to other libraries, they say because they have bigger collections.
Fair enough. I know that in East Granby, we made a lot of space for computers because we, if a book hadn't been borrowed in 10 years.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I think the teenagers don't use the library as much as they might because there aren't meeting rooms. If there were spaces where 3 or 4 kids could get together and work on a project and shut a door.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we all want the little kids running around the library, but it's hard to focus and, that kind of thing. So the plan with the 5 meeting rooms, to me, made a lot of sense if you want to increase that population's use of the space. When I was working on my grad work, I tried twice to go to the library, and the one room was signed out by this person because they use it every night, right? I mean, there's only one space, and frankly, in my own house, there's just so many distractions, right? Mm-hmm. The phone rings, the doorbell rings, a kid has a problem, right? You're trying to lock in, focus, as they say now, mm-hmm. and but it wasn't really accessible for that purpose. Mm-hmm. So if there were more spaces where people could go and shut a door and really study, read, whatever, I think that would increase the usage of that space.
100% agree. Also, we do hear a lot of people go to Simsbury because of their meeting rooms, and I do know now Simsbury charges for their meeting rooms.
Really?
Because it is so overwhelmed with people needing space.
Wow.
So.
Do you think you would ever go to that?
At this point, no.
If you got to the expansion.
I currently at this point I believe that the space should be free to use, and I do think that us having that space would alleviate some issues for Simsbury because I know a lot of our patrons go there. So undecided. We would need to see how it goes.
Would your visions for the library expansion, and thank you for this presentation. This was really great and helpful to understand what the challenges were. and are, you know, I totally understand like the ability to have more programs and, you know, more space and more people. Is that also going to expand the need for staffing and, you know, facilities, folks to help maintain this expansion?
Sure. I honestly do not believe that we would need more staff. I believe we have a good, solid staff right now. Every time I talk to them, it's always just, we don't have the space. So we are in a really good place with our staff. Also, as I mentioned with the cafe, if that were a route we were looking at taking, there is that opportunity for additional source of revenue. And in my mind, that would be to support Public Works with the additional areas that would need work for custodial services and just regular maintenance. As far as that, yeah. Thank you.
I guess on the note of the cafe, are there any I guess, I don't know of any surrounding towns that have that option?
Hartford does.
Hartford does?
Yep. It is a newer, when we went to Missouri, this was something that they brought to our attention, and they said it is a new trend. Mm-hmm. And essentially, they said, oh, you have to have that. That is the most up-and-coming thing, and it is a perfect way to provide extra support for the library.
Okay. Yeah, I guess when I think about it, right, and even if I know it's a much smaller space in the Sanford Park, sometimes we have trouble filling that with the vendor, right? Obviously, I think you get a lot more just foot traffic and open year-round library, but I guess just trying to, have you explored any initial kind of what it would cost on that? Or, because essentially if we didn't get somebody to come in, then it would be up to the town to then staff that, right?
No, so the cafe would be a requirement of the vendor that they would bring in all of their own equipment. Mm-hmm. So if for some reason we did not fill it, it would just become another meeting space or another area that could have cozy furniture, and it would be adaptable because a lot of our spaces we would work to make them flexible, so they could be used for multiple things rather than it would not be built specifically for cafe. It would be built for flexibility.
Okay.
I mean, we're sure about that? Like, imagine if you're offering a coffee shop, you got to have grease traps and certain health code requirements that have to be built into the structure.
I think those are all things that are worth investigating at this point. I think we're early enough on. We haven't committed to anything, but we thought it was an innovative way to support local small business, provide some employment, also provide another resource for our patrons, moms that are there with their little kids or people that are there studying and they don't need to leave to go and get a snack or a coffee. Just another way to invite them to our space.
What about like fancy vending machines?
That's an option as well. They did have in the library that we toured in Missouri, they did have a vending machine room that had snacks and things in it.
I'm just thinking if you had like a Barnes and Noble kind of setup, right? That's
sure.
But you get one person in there for 8 hours making $20 an hour. That's $160. I mean, that's a lot of coffee to sell just to break even. Mm-hmm. Right.
I think that's all again worth investigating. I think that would really come down to, if we pursued a project, it would come down to a building committee to make those decisions and decide what's the best option. We went out to find out what are our choices, what would our community really like to see. And that's what we brought you tonight.
And if you looked at, I'm not expecting you to remember, but if you looked at the way it was designed, even if it was simply a Keurig or an espresso machine, or it was also on the outside, so the library could be closed. There could be a meeting.
It could be a meeting space.
Whatever. I'm sure almost everyone on any of the town boards at times has a subcommittee that needs to meet, and where do you go? so that it could be an after hours and with, and it's not staffed, as a vendor. I was on the first Zoom call with those, and at first I thought I think I even brought up well, we did get an idea of a cafe. Those architects were across the country, that's what every library we renovate, that's what they're looking at. And I was like, okay.
Some kind of cafe.
Yeah.
But are those communities as small as ours?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we allowed
Smaller.
even
Yeah, some are smaller. Yep. It's actually a way that they are providing more services because they're having, like I said, that additional source of revenue coming in. Catherine, can you quickly go back to the slide with the floor plan?
With the what?
The floor plan on, right there, on 22. I wanted to add too, you can see over on the left side there is the multi-purpose program space, and that also has an exterior entrance, so that's another space that could be used after hours for a variety of things. So we would have 2 spaces that are usable, and that program space could be broken up into 3 small spaces, so that there's 3 little study rooms up top and then 3 larger rooms for meetings more this size down bottom, plus that cafe space.
How often are all 7 stations, computer stations, used?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. And if you look back, Catherine, I'm sorry, can you go back to the slides list? Okay. Keep going. Go to, nope. Yeah, let me do it this way. Go to slide 5, please. Okay, so those 3 in the middle and the one on the left, that's actually in our reading room. They're used constantly, and that space is also the space where you saw all of the programs happening. So anytime we have a program in there, we have to close that room and no one can access those machines. Or it also houses our audiobooks, our large print collection, newspapers, magazines. So every time we have a program, we have to close that space to the public. And also a quiet study room.
And is the trend to have standalone units, or is the trend that people would bring in their own laptops, or
It's both.
Where are things going?
It's both. Honestly, there are still a lot of people out there that need a computer, that don't have one at home, that don't have internet at home. So they come to the library to have access to it. Quite a few people still bring their laptops, but as you saw, they don't have anywhere to bring them. So they don't. The trend for a long time was computer labs. So we've gotten away from the computer lab. That is not as big a trend anymore. Now it is more workspaces around the library, more like that one that's on the left, that is more of a workspace. And you'll notice that those computers over on the right-hand side, that is technically our teen zone. So those are supposed to be dedicated to teens, and they're always filled with adults. And teens do not want to sit there because they would have to sit with adults.
Do both options get you the 22? Or is there a difference in computer count between the two, option 1?
The option 1 would not get us to 22 computers.
What would it get us to?
Catherine, can you go to the slide with the first floor plan, the $7 million floor plan? Catherine, can you get us to the slide for this with the $7 million floor plan? So essentially, that red box in the middle there is the area where we would remove the computers, and we would have to find space for them in our current area. The top part of this has the teen room, or the teen space. So essentially you'll see right there where it says computers, and that would get us to 10 or 12. So it would not increase us by that much.
So only a probably increase of 2 to 4 with a 7 million expansion.
So in this model, the makerspace would stay at Cosset.
Correct.
And the $11 million, it would move here. And then is there plans for what Cosset, then what the use of Cosset becomes?
Not yet. Not. My goal for for this upcoming year is to really look at the expense of Cosset and really see what the best use of it would be and how we proceed with its future.
I apologize, I didn't ask this when you made the presentation to us. I wasn't really focused on it, but the square footage numbers that you use to get to the per capita, do they include the space at Cosset?
They do not.
Should they under the formula?
I did not include them because I wasn't sure how we were going to move forward with the use of Cosset. So I didn't want to include them knowing that. I can, but it's not a whole lot.
And I do want to say, prior to Amber being our Director of Library Services, I was also Friends of Cosset, with not Friends Group says words, that's another topic, but we did have architects look at what it would take for that intake building to make it ADA compliant. And Amber and I went through that today, thinking it might come up. You're at about, we'll say, $1 million to add a silo,
And then
which is typically what they do.
For an elevator?
For an elevator, yep.
Because you have no bathroom, there's no bathroom access.
And you're getting a lot of traffic at Cosset. That makerspace is attracting a lot of...
It attracts a lot of people. But I have had response from patrons that say they cannot go there because of it not being accessible.
Yes. The makerspace is handicap accessible, but you can't get to the restroom.
Correct. So you can go there. Just
That's a good point, Mark.
Yeah.
have to use the bathroom.
Okay. Can I just ask two other quick questions? One is, I think this is new, so the Education Foundation's pledge. What are there stipulations, because you described it as a teen contribution.
Correct.
Are there stipulations to what the use of that?
So essentially, for either plan, we have a dedicated teen space, and GEF has pledged that they would support us in furnishing the shelving, the technology, a variety of other things that would be in that teen space. So either project that's shown here is supported by GEF.
So it wouldn't go to offset the actual capital cost to build the structure in either case?
So all of the soft costs, the furniture, desks, et cetera, are all included in this cost. So it would go to offset it, but I consider it as part of our grants line. So when I look at how a grant goal, I add that to it. I'm also applying I'm in the process of applying to the Cox Foundation for $250,000 towards the children's room, and they have been excited about partnering with us for that. And the Friends of the Library have already pledged $50,000, and the Granby Library Association has already pledged $50,000. Plus, we have about $38,000 in other private donations that have already come in.
And all of that would go to the $2 million that we need for the capital campaign?
All of that falls under the capital campaign. Correct.
And then one last question, because again, no matter how many times you explain this, I just don't get it. So the state grant, I thought when you presented to us, you said, I can't count on the state grant because we're not going to meet their requirements.
The larger project does meet their requirements. This project does not meet the requirements, but if I can find a way to also be innovative, they like highly innovative grant applications. So if we do pursue the smaller project, I plan to find ways to make it very innovative and hope for something from the state. And I do think that they will. And my goal is to most likely bring the makerspace here and have some special things that would go with it that nobody in the area has. And I think that that would be intriguing to the state and that they would support it.
So in both cases, the maximum is a $2 million grant with a $1 million match. So the maximum is a net million?
It's a $2 million grant with a $2 million match.
Okay, that's the maximum.
The maximum.
But it's possible for them to say, well, we'll give you $300,000 if you match $300,000.
Correct.
It's a dollar for dollar match. either
Correct.
way.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
The other grants I mentioned do not have a match.
Thank you.
Can you talk about the gallery here? So I guess I'm just trying to think around like space. So we're opting for a gallery versus meeting space.
So that gallery is actually just a small portion of what would be the cafe. In this instance, this cafe is not a fully functioning vendor-operated cafe. This would be just a cozy area that would have maybe a Keurig, some couches, some nice lighting, and then one area of it would be a gallery display area. So that
Or
is just
kind of like a corner where you
correct.
display. Okay.
Exactly. It's not. It's really just showing where we would provide gallery space, but that whole area there would be your cozy seating because essentially, by removing the reading room and making it kids and teen, we lose our cozy seating area space. So we would move it into that cafe area, and that could be a place where people just sit and read the paper or, be at the library.
And neither of these, though, is set in stone, right?
Nothing is set in stone. It's all conceptual. Both architects gave us, Northeast Collaborative gave us 4 different plans, and Lamar Johnson gave us 3 different plans, and we are selecting 2 that we like the best to.
So ultimately, obviously, you could decide you don't want a cafe.
Exactly.
You want a
Yep.
kid's bathroom. Those might not necessarily equate.
Yeah, and when we went to the Design Institute, we were very lucky to have a whole breakout session dedicated to just us, where participants did all the value engineering, and they looked at, they had 3D printed all the blocks of the different areas that we wanted, and we looked at if we had to get rid of something, what would we get rid of, and then we discussed, so we were able to see what other people thought of and how other people figured out how to rearrange areas, and it was really insightful to see what we could do with our current space and how we could utilize flexible spaces.
Does this one have any changes to like the road and construction? Is
No.
that within?
It
No,
does- this one does not.
this one does not,
No.
but the 11 million does.
Correct.
And is that built into like
Yes.
repaving and configuring?
Yep.
Oh, can you go through, because we never saw that one. Can you go through that just a little
Yeah,
bit?
so this is a brand new one that we were just able to get. So if you can go back to the $11 million plan. And if you could go to 2 more slides ahead, I believe. Okay, so you can see it in this bottom right corner here a little bit. I do have better external layout of this, but they would create the driveway. They would make it go straight. You would not be able to turn right in front of the library. The traffic pattern would go straight and then cross over in front of where Town Hall is, and it would allow for sidewalks and benches, and that whole front area would now become more usable outdoor space. It also would provide safety because our traffic patterns in that area are not always clear for everyone, so this would make for a very clear traffic pattern. And yeah, so it would also just provide another place for people to to be. And there's also still in the back corner where you see that little U, that is an outdoor patio.
So the dotted line is just a very rough,
Yes,
that's what it would curve instead of going what currently kind of goes straight on that drawing?
yes.
Do you
Yes, it
think
would.
you'd run power to most of the tables?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Power, like to plug in with your laptop, that kind of stuff.
That is one of the things that when we went to the sessions, they talked a lot about just put power everywhere, and lots of conduit, lots of runways for additional things in the future, because obviously what technology was like in 1982 is not, and just like they were saying at schools, it's hard to organize it because we didn't know. And so just to think to the future with lots of runways and power outlets. This plan also provides a 2 EV charging stations outside.
On the slide, the funding slide.
Mm-hmm.
The grants the campaign will change whether we do $7 million or $11 million. Both of those remain the same.
They do, because if you guys opt for providing a $4 million investment, then we would need to still get to that $7 million to get at least our smallest project. So we would be striving to earn that to get, so to make up the difference. If you guys chose to invest in the $7 million option, this could allow us to get to the $11 million option.
But minimally, we're looking at $4 million.
Correct.
So, quickly, we are running out a little bit out of time, so gotta do it.
But those 7 doesn't meet the state standards, so.
Correct.
Because you could get less in state
I
grant.
could get less from the Connecticut, so that grant's goal could decrease by, who knows? But, as I said, we will work to be innovative and see what we can do.
Okay. Thank you, this was a great presentation.
You're welcome, thank you.
I guess, if you're available, I'm not too sure we'll need you at the next meeting, but
Perhaps if there's questions after the meeting, send them to me, and I'll send them to Amber. Mr. Chairman, the last 2 items up, not for tonight, but for another day, is the discussion on 2 pump stations for the sewer system. That would come out of funding, out of that fund, the sewer fund. Also, the discussion that came out of the GZA master plan for both Aarons and Salmon Brook Park, the discussion of perhaps 4 new pickleball courts, and that would be paid for out of the Park and Rec Fund. I will have Kirk to talk about the sewers, and Sandy and anybody from Parks and Rec to talk about that. I would imagine it would probably combine, take up about the same time as the library did.
thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our next meeting is on 11/24 Monday at 5 o'clock. And then can I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. All those in favor? Aye. All right.